Okay. All right, now we're back and we are going to start to shade this trunk right over here, and let's make that a kind of fun accent color. So let's try something a little bright, a little different. So let's try, all right, well, why don't we try a beautiful magenta color trunk. Here we go. Why don't we try this? Here we go, magenta. So with this trunk, we are going to, right here at the foot of the bed, we are going to find a magenta, and for me this is like a purplish red. And let me just move this light a little closer, and I'm going to avoid the area of this handle here. We're going to make that handle black, or that soft, the warm gray instead of black. We're not going to use black, at all. So let's put a couple layers of this magenta down. So magenta is like a reddish purple, basically. I always wondered what the difference between the color fuchsia and magenta was. The fuchsia was a little a lighter or redder purple, or if they were just two different names for the same color. Something to think about. All right, now what we're going to do is we are going to shade this side right here a medium and this side right here light. So we're going to go ahead and do the medium side right here. And I'm just making these strokes kind of go in the same direction as the top and bottom line for the trunk. So we could apply our color that way, and then we could go up and down vertical lines and do a little cross hatching to fill in all the way to the end. Do another pass with that, and then do the top. Make that light. Make that the lightest surface there. So don't put as much shading as the other two sides. Now this and this are starting to look very similar, but don't worry about that for now. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to create so this is going to be, let's make a dark to light type of fade. And let's just try using just the color by itself and putting a little bit more of the color on this corner. And then as we travel diagonally across, let's do a little fade out. Okay. And let's also do a dark to light fade on the medium side. So let's do a dark here, this side, and then fade to a lighter color. Once we get close to the midpoint, then let's start fading. And let's do that to the bottom too. A little darker in this corner overall. Okay. So let's do a dark to light fade from this corner right over here to this corner right over here on the very top. But don't press too hard, just a very, very light pressure just to make this corner here a little darker, and then just fade from corner to corner. Okay. So now you can kind of distinguish all three sides. So I'm going to pick a darker color than even this magenta. So I'm going to look for something a little darker in my pencil pack, if there is such a thing. So let me test this out. This is the magenta. Magenta. Let me try something called maroon. Okay, that could possibly stand in for a darker color. And then let's try claret above that. So claret is a little bit more redder color. So this is more of a darker purple. So I'm going to go with maroon as the shade color for magenta. Okay, so I'm going to go back there and I'm going to make this corner a little darker with the application of maroon on the corner. Okay. And along this corner as well. I'm going to do some horizontal as well as some vertical lines fading to the corner here. And then put a tiny bit of this maroon also on the lightest area, which is the top. On this corner here, and then fade as I go across. Fade as I come over here to this corner. There we go. All right. All right, so now I'm going to use some of that warm gray to color in this handle right here for my trunk. And I'm going to try to leave a little line of white at the top of the handle and on the right side. And it's okay if you cover that up by accident, but that's supposed to be the highlights. Okay. If you do have the eraser, then you could go ahead and erase out the highlights with the sand eraser. Okay, there we go. So that makes it a little bit more 3D. Now I'm going to go back here to the left. I'm going to go to the left here, and let's go ahead and shade this mirror. Okay, so I'm going to use a burnt sienna so it matches the furniture over here on the right, and make the front of this dresser the darkest side, the top of the dresser lighter, and then this would also be the front of the mirror. Let's make that the same type of colored wood for the framing of the mirror. Okay, the reason why I'm using a lot of brown in this room is because brown and neutral colors are kind of relaxing, and they're just kind of calm colors to the eye. They don't overly stimulate the eye like some of these bright colors. So if you use bright colors for everything, then the viewer would just not know what to focus on. So these brown colors are more realistic to real life in that most people don't want to use all kinds of primary colors and even secondary colors in their rooms on everything. It gives the eye a resting space when you do have browns and grays and these types of neutrals. And they just provide a nice little background color to everything else. Instead of everything kind of being a blaring, loud color, we just want most things to be kind of subtle and neutral colors. And depending on the neutral, it could be warm like a brown, or it could be cool like a gray blue. It just depends on the kind of feeling you want to go for. But I rather prefer warmer neutrals because then it makes it feel a little bit cozier, a little bit warmer in the room. Okay, I'm going to put a little bit of brown on these little knobs. And then for the underside, you see each of these drawers have a little angled bevel around them, like little facet, like a different angle to the sides. So I'm going to make the bottom here the darkest. So I'm going to go to the bottoms of each of the drawers. I'm going to make the top the lightest, just put a little bit of brown there. Maybe I'll put a little yellow ochre there. And then I'm going to make the side here medium. Okay, and this side here, I'll make that medium as well. Okay, I'm going to take a little bit of yellow ochre, which is supposed to be kind of that golden color, and mix that in with the brown to create the lightest shade of brown. So I'm going to get this ochre here. That's ochre. And let me mix that in with the top. The color, the brown I put at the top of each of these little sides of the front drawers. The front of the drawers have like these little angles. And put a little bit on the sides here. And definitely put them on the handles too. Okay. Now the top of the dresser, just put a little bit of this brown, this burnt sienna, and then put some of this yellow ochre at the top to lighten it up. Let's put some of this burnt sienna on the frame for the mirror, and just thinking about what kind of color I want the mirror to be. If you don't want to draw a reflection in the mirror, which is very complex, that's a complicated thing to do, then what I would do is just make it like a gray blue color. And then the inside edge right here, make it a little darker. You could fade that down to a lighter color if you want. And then the top here, make it much darker. Or I should say the bottom, underside, make it much darker. There we go. All right, so the mirror itself, let's make that a gray blue. And I'm gonna try to find a gray blue in my pack here. And that would be the slate gray. So let's test that out. Yes, that is a bluish, cooler gray. That's a slate gray. And they use the English spelling. That's kind of interesting. Like the British spelling for gray. So I'm going to use an A instead. And this is how I would do the mirror. You don't have to put these little hash marks here, but what you could do is do this. So from this corner here, upper left-hand corner, press a little darker with your slate gray or cool blue gray. And then as you approach kind of like the middle, I want you to fade it, right? To almost like very, very, very light gray, and then start pressing a little darker and just kind of practice your control here of pressure, and then go back to a darker gray at this lower right hand corner. Let's go ahead and just put a little bit more pressure on your pencil tip like that. And that kind of gives you like that shine in the middle here. Okay. And I hope you like that. I like that. It kind of looks silvery. Because when they make a mirror, what they do, or they used to do, is put like a silver foil on the back of a clear piece of glass to create that mirror. So it was like at least like two layers of material. There's like a silver foil, and then there's a clear glass plate on top. There we go, and that definitely looks like some sort of a mirror. However, it looks just so dark. We did use a cerulean blue, and I'm going to mix that in with the gray to give it that, reflect some of the color from the walls into that gray. So that it kind of connects with some of the colors that are already in the room. Since we're not going to go and draw all the objects that the mirror is reflecting in the room, we're just going to put some of the color at least in there. And just press a little lighter with that blue in the middle. Oh yeah, that looks much better than just leaving it that really cool, dark gray color. Just to put a little bit of color in there. Much better, much better. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we are going to go and we're going to try to shade the windows. So what we're going to do is pick up our light gray, the lightest gray that we have in our set. And here it is, light gray. And we are going to sharpen it. And when you sharpen colored pencils, please use a handheld sharpener when possible, if you own one. And hopefully you can use one that has like a little catch so it doesn't make a mess. And you could just empty it later. A handheld sharpener that sharpens your pencil, but not to a super duper point, because you don't want to do that to a colored pencil. The point will just break off as soon as you put it down on the paper. So a handheld sharpener that creates a rather blunt point is the best type of sharpener for colored pencils. Okay, a blunt point is a little bit stronger, so that's why. Okay, so let's take a look over here. We said that this was going to be the darkest wall, so everything here should be a little bit darker right up against the wall, including the gray around the windowsill. So let's do the front or the face of this trim around the window. This is a side edge, so let's not color that in yet. Okay, so let's do a couple layers of this light gray. Just this edge that is nailed to the front of this wall. Okay, we're not doing the sides or anything like that. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is grab my warm gray, okay, which is this, and I'm going to put that on the edge here and press pretty hard so that it looks like it's even darker. Okay. All right, now the window looks a little bit more 3D, but this window also has this little mosquito screen and this little bar here. So let's also color that in with the light gray, as well as this little half moon shaped lock. Color that in too. Everything should have some sort of color on it. Nothing should be left white. Okay, let's go to the inside here, the inside angles of the window. What I want to do right there is to keep that fairly light, but I want there to be contrast. So we need to make some decisions here. We need to make this a little bit darker on the inside of the house because the sunlight is out there, and it's going to make this lighter than this part of the window frame or the windowsill. Or what am I saying? The window trimming, I should say. I don't know what overall the name of all doing this kind of structure around a window is called. The window framing, the window trimming, I don't know. So let's darken that up with a little bit of warm gray, but not as dark as this little edge here because we want that to stand on its own. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to the top of the inside of this window, and we're going to have that be a light gray, and we're going to press a little harder on the right side here. I mean on the left side here, and have that go from dark to light. Have a little contrast. Okay, now we're on the inside edge here of the window, and we're going to go from dark over here at this corner and lighten that up as we go down to almost white. Okay, and then over here we're going to go from dark here on this corner, this little bottom part of the inside of the window, and then fade that to almost white. Okay, If you got a little bit too dark, you just take your eraser and erase it out to lighten it up at the corners where they were supposed to get real light. Okay, and then on the outside of the window frame, make that a little darker for contrast. Okay. If you need to make this little edge a little even darker, I'm going to take a little bit of silver gray, or the darkest gray that you have, and just layer it over like that. Okay. So now the windowsill is done. Okay. And let's see, on the inside of the window, I'm going to take some of my warm gray and just put a little bit of that and then fade it out just for contrast on the darkest areas of the inside of the windowsill. Just a little bit to add that pop of contrast, and then quickly fade it away. Okay, now I can see that angle. Let's do that same type of thing to the window over here. But what you'll notice is that while the inside of the window frame was over here on the right side, this is going to be on the left side. So everything is going to be the mirror opposite over here on this side of the picture. So what we could do is just make this darker edge with the warm gray. Okay. So right away, make that dark, and also make sure you go all the way down, because the window continues down over here next to this this little lamp over here. Okay. Let's make the front of the trim here a light gray. Okay. Let this be a little bit lighter overall than the window frame over here, because this side of the wall is lit up by the light from this window. Catches some of that light. Okay. Make sure you continue underneath this lampshade here, because that's where the window is. And then between, right here, you might not see the line, but it does continue right here underneath the little scroll part for the bed. Okay. There you go. And then for the inside, it should be, let's make the inside there a little bit, just a little bit lighter. Just put a little bit of light gray there, just a little bit. Make sure the bottom inside edge is right here, so don't forget that. And then let's do this. Let's press a little harder with that light gray on the right side, and have that fade from dark to light with just the light gray. Okay, same here on this corner, go from dark to light with just the light gray, and then just fade it to almost a white, almost. Okay, and then down here it should be dark. Okay, dark to light. Okay. And then what you could do with the warm gray, which is darker, is just push that a little bit darker right there where the dark value does start, and then very quickly fade it away. Just for contrast. All right. Okay, so now the windows are done. Oh, this little part of the window we didn't do, the little crossbar here, that's part of the window screening and the lock. So let's put a little bit of light gray there. Okay, because we have to color in everything. All right, so let's get the yellow ochre out. That's that gold yellow, and let's shade the brass headboard here, the foot of the bed, and the brass curtain rods right over here. They'll all be made out of this kind of gold colored metal. So let's go ahead And we are going to try to leave like a little white area at the top and just kind of use our pencil, create like a little crescent moon shape right there on each of these little spheres, like that, and create like a little area, a little white dot to represent highlight. Each of these curtain rods, you can just kind of fill it in with the gold or yellow ochre as it's called. Okay. And the same thing with each of these little wavy lines, just fill it in with the yellow ochre. Just fill it in. It's such a small area. I'm going to show you how to shade that, but it's not going to be easy because it's just such a thin little area to fill in. There's hardly any room for highlights and shading and all that stuff. So, but for now, I'll show you how to, you can do a little bit of that, but let's just fill it in with this kind of yellow gold ochre. Please do not use gold colored pencil because some of the sets come with this fake weird gold pearlescent color, and sometimes they come with this silver, and it's called silver and gold. But when you actually use that, it looks like a khaki color, and it's got this weird kind of flat sheen to it, and I don't think that looks like brass too much at all. Looks like old tarnished brass or something. So if you're a colored pencil artist, you never use those metallic colors. You don't use those at all. Okay, just leave a little white area at the top, make a little white circle. You could go and put a little curved yellow line at the very, very top, and just put like a little, create a little white highlight right at the upper half of each of these little spheres. Okay, so now right here, I want you to put a little bit of this brassy color over here. And earlier we got some of this green accidentally into where the foot of the brass foot of this bed is. But that's okay, because you know what? Metal looks like metal because you have to reflect all the colors around it inside. So this is what's going to happen. This is exactly correct. So it's good that some of this green got onto this brass foot. It looks like it's reflecting some of that color. All right, you're going to get some of this brown, like the brown that's like a brownish red color in your pencil pack. This is my brown. And you see how reddish it is? We're going to use that as a core shadow color for this brass bed. So on the right side, I'm going to put a really, really light thin line of this red brown, and it's going to make this pole right here look a little bit more three-dimensional. I'm going to make a little light crescent moon shape on the underside of this little ball right here, and all of the other little knobs on the curtain rod.